Well, thank you, Mark, for joining us here today. We have Marc Isenberg, a lifelong contributor to education as it relates to financial literacy and financial wealth building. Mark, thank you for taking the time to join us here today. First, do you mind just talking us through your background and really why the topic of NIL is important for you?
First of all, thank you for having me, Sean. Uh, I mean, a lot of people will ask, like, why is NIL important? And in the end, I mean, these are life skills that athletes can learn through NIL. They were important, but before NIL, it was always theoretical. It was when you leave college and you enter the real world, these are the things that you're going to need to understand to manage your personal finances. And so when NIL came along and athletes could start to earn money, then it was, these are heady times. It gives them the opportunity to start their wealth building, journey earlier, which is magical when it comes to building wealth. To me, just the ability to pull back the curtains on what can seem daunting, complex, and then to really break things down in a way that you can make the connection between what you're saying and why it might be in their best interest to pursue a course of action that will put them in a position to succeed, however they defined it. And I think that's really where, like, I mean, I love the concept of personal finance. I love the fact that it can really provide people with the opportunity to live their best life. And, to the extent that our entire country has a problem managing their money, building wealth, I think that there's a lot of obstacles along the way that prevent the general population from building wealth. And so, to the extent that athletes are really unique, especially Division I scholarship athletes, even let's go back before NIL, when a lot of their peers were going through school. They were taking on debt that they had to repay in their 20s and 30s. The opportunity to attend school on a scholarship, full or partial, becomes a lifelong advantage. So that's almost like our starting point. That when they can go from being a debtor to a wealth builder, that pivot early on is a formula for financial success slash life success. And to the extent that athletes now have the ability to monetize their name, image, and likeness, and to really think about what they can do with these opportunities, whether it's just putting themselves on a platform that will, give them a supercharged version of their brand building earlier on, create relationships with community leaders, industry leaders, to get real world experience. And then on top of that, you get paid for the value that you're providing, whether it's to a different brand, now with the collectives. There's just a lot of opportunities, but at the same time, there's a lot of dangers. And so, to the extent that we can at least provide the tools to athletes and their families and anybody in their support system to make sure that they are doing all the right things, making the right financial moves, protecting themselves legally and financially. These are life-changing opportunities.
Absolutely. And you mentioned, a starting point too for the student athletes when it comes to wealth building. And as we think about the student athlete life cycle, say, you're a freshman at your institution, you're making your first or second NIL deal, and you're starting to have that new stream of income. Um, what advice would you give to that student athlete that's making their first couple deals, just to get started, to have a strong base of financial freedom and success?
It's a great question. And the only rephrasing is almost like it reminded me of one of the great quotes from somebody who probably in the course of the 45 minutes that we're talking, that I'll probably name drop three or four times, John Wooden. And so he was always really good at teaching. And then he would also say that I don't give you advice. I'll give you my opinions.
Yeah.
And which is kind of funny because like I'm a financial advisor, I'm a financial educator. But I think it's, something where, almost like a coach that's trying to get the best out of their players. It's really helping make the connection between what you're saying and why it might be in their best interest, and not to be preachy about it. So, my advice, my sort of view of this whole world is, get educated, get knowledgeable about how money works, get knowledgeable about the people who inhabit your world, understand how to, go from maybe being naive about these issues to, getting to, closer to the truth. Is what the person who you're talking to, are they um, telling the truth? What are the kind of questions that you have to ask? How do you do the independent research? The other big thing for when it comes to money, and like I said, these are heady times, is just take it slow. That there is, building wealth is almost like threading the needle, where there's so many different things that have to go right for you to achieve financial success. One is that you have to be able to make money. And so, like, if we're checking boxes, a lot of college athletes now can check that one off, that they are bringing in money. Then the next part is, the awesome responsibility of what to do. Do you have a plan? And so, to the extent that, athletes now have the money coming in, and, hopefully they've signed contracts that are fair for both parties. They're not giving too many legal rights away, and that it is a fair representation of the value that they're providing, the brand, the collective, and then they have the legal structure in place to bring in the money so that they can maximize their benefits. I'm not going to get too much into the weeds when it comes to tax planning, but certainly the goal should be to maximize the money that they keep in an honorable, legal way, and then take it slow. That's the thing that I think that we really need to reorientate athletes. That athletes are everything that makes athletes incredible. Like, they have all the skills that help them succeed as a college athlete, and then you can translate that into the real world, whether it's in whatever profession you choose: medicine, legal, financial, insurance, school teacher, brand management. The competitive mindset and all the skills that you would acquire through your educational background, your athletic background. That is spot on. We're real. I always try to preach, just like, how do you live that exceptional life? Now, when it comes to personal finance and investing, then it's almost like the exact opposite. And my message becomes, be spectacular in everything that you do, except wealth building. Average is really what becomes spectacular if you have the patience to do it slowly, methodically, and really, when it comes to, the formula for building reasonable wealth is make money, save money, pay off, any personal debt, credit card balances, student loans. College athletes in many ways have the ability to overcome all of those obstacles that keep pretty much half of America from pivoting from being a debtor to a wealth builder. So, to the extent that now they have made money, they're not spending it frivolously, and they recognize the ability to save that money, then translates in the ability to invest, and then to take a really long term time horizon, is the literal formula for prudent investing. Is, that you're not trying to time the market. The success comes down to the time in the market. So the power of compounding returns is the longer that you put the money in an investment vehicle that makes sense. Not here in any way to provide any kind of investment advice, but long-term, broad-based, low-cost. Uh, Google index funds if you're listening, and just recognize that diversification matters. Uh, the ability to put the money in an investment vehicle and not need that money for a long period of time is the formula for investment success. That's not to say that you wouldn't sort of peel off some of that money at certain points to put a down payment on a house or invest in investment property. But to the extent that uh, college athletes have really sort of the golden ticket to pivot from being a debtor like many of their peers to a wealth builder in their teens or early 20s is a great place to be. And again, we can show them all the statistics of building wealth in a slow, methodical manner, and really to take out the worst things that can happen in this industry, which is you come across somebody that is telling you something that sounds really good, that they can beat the market. And so to the extent that, yeah, I mean, you can beat the market, but can you, I mean, for over a 1 year period, over a 2 year period, but can that persist? And all the research, suggests that over a long period of time, we're talking 10 years or longer, it is very difficult to outperform the S&P 500, which is the broader market. And so to the extent that, when you're starting your wealth building journey, and you may be the first person in your family, or you may have some financial experience and guidance, which is awesome. But these are heady times. So to the extent that, you can take it slow, you can, I mean, right now, look what, short-term financial instruments are starting to return. So you can get 4 or 5% on your money on, I mean, putting money into a savings account, CDs, money markets. So again, not financial advice, but if you don't know what you're doing, then certainly take it slow. Putting the money into a bank provides a greater measure of security because you're not putting your principal at risk. What was the great quote from satirist Will Rogers? I'm not so concerned of my return on investment as my return of investment. In other words, like I just want my money back. And
Right.
and so, I mean, to be able to make a reasonable rate of return by just putting the money in a bank, which is uh, FDIC, and I don't want to get too technical, but it's insured, up to a high level. I think it's like $250,000. So to the extent that you want to make sure that if something calamitous happens, that that you're protected. Not to say that you should put all your money in that, but as you're getting educated and making sure that you understand that when you start to invest in securities, that there is some risk associated with it. We want it to be prudent. We want to make sure that it's in line with what the academics are saying for long-term investing, and then just having the perseverance to almost rewire your brain into, yeah, you want it right now, but everything that makes somebody a great athlete when it comes to investing is just slow it down, be average. Like that's such a crazy message to get across to elite performers. But in many ways, that's, I think, a really strong message is be elite in everything you do in your life, except for investing, where average, slow and steady will reward you. Like I mean, who was this guy that I listened to like 30 years ago? What was his name? Who said slow and steady wins the race? I mean, consider index funds. Don't touch it. Put your money in, tax advantage retirement accounts. I mean, again, there's no great secrets to, building wealth. And the unfortunate part, I feel like I'm just going on and
You're
on
good.
this one. But, I mean, I think that, right now we have financial gurus. We have, what are they calling them? Finfluencers that you go on TikTok and Instagram and they're selling courses. They're selling, get rich quick strategies, and they are very compelling. And so, again, I mean, I think that it's just really important to, slow things down, really understand how the investment world works, what the true investment experts are saying, people who, again, it's easy to sort of invoke the John Woodens, the Warren Buffetts, um, just to the extent that building wealth by a strategy that's trying to outperform the market is really a fool's errand. And, I mean, it's hard because I know how I was when I was, 20 years old and had a little bit of money to start investing. I wasn't going straight for the boring index funds.
You mentioned a number of different accounts from high yield saving accounts to tax advantage accounts. For a freshman or sophomore in college, what are the most, one and two important accounts for that person to have to set them up for success? Is that a high yield savings account and a brokerage account where they can start to get their feet wet with investing and start to get some experience? At a high level, what would you
I
recommend?
think that when you're, starting to build wealth, step one is, to be able to capture whatever the prevailing interest rate in a high earning savings account. That should be, I mean, if we're playing with monopoly money, I guess we can
Yeah.
play out that metaphor is, that's the first place that you can put the money. Then, when you think about, investing in different buckets. So, bucket number one is, probably your any personal debt. You want that bucket empty. You want that bone dry,
Yeah.
and then the second bucket would be their, savings account. And then now let's talk about when have some money that you were like, okay, I don't want to touch this, for. I mean, again, it's so hard to say to a 20-year-old, that here's the money you're going to put it in. You're going to put it's almost like putting seeds in the dirt to grow a tree, and there's not going to be much that you're going to see for a very long period of time, and then all of a sudden you're going to wake up in 5, 10, 20 years, and all of a sudden you're getting some shade out of it.
Yeah.
So really the pivot from saving to investing, becomes paramount. And, I mean, so you have a brokerage account, you have an investable account, you have tax advantage retirement accounts. And again, from a high level, I'm a big believer in, I mean, putting money in a Roth IRA account, because this is not, W-2 earnings, but there are, solo IRA accounts that you can put the money in, and then the Roth, uh, IRA accounts provide the opportunity to pay the taxes early on, then put the money. There's, I mean, limits to everything that you earn and how much you can put in, and they change yearly, and depending on what type of account, they're capped based on your earnings, but then, the money that you put in, if it's under a Roth IRA, whatever capital gains that, accrue over a very long period of time. The IRA accounts and the 401k accounts, the brilliance of them isn't so much that, I mean, you can make a lot of money. It's that you're not going to touch it. There's an economic incentive, in the form of a penalty to withdraw it. So, for a 20-year-old to be able to say to themselves, I'm going to put this money in for, 40 plus years. And I mean, it's a wild thought. Um, but it's one of those things where remember I told you it's like I mean I'm like a big believer in trust but verify.
Right.
And anything that I'm saying or anybody that's educating you or financial advisors, legal advisors. Um, the only thing that I would say, trust me, is to be a long-term investor and to put money into vehicles that you're not going to touch for a very long time. And what's nice about IRA accounts and 401ks is that you get a penalty if you withdraw early. And so most people just throw up their arms and be like, I'm not touching it. And then that's how the compound magic happens. So again, I mean, I think that there's really I mean, just thinking in terms of buckets. Going back like if you have any personal debt, credit cards, student loans, even car loans, just to get in the habit of funding your personal lifestyle and your needs from a position of strength, which is the money that you have coming in. Now, college athletes have such a great advantage because if they are on a full athletic scholarship, a lot of these things are already paid for. So NIL becomes icing on this, I mean, great tasting cake.
Yeah.
So, again, I think that, I mean, making sure that they don't have any personal debt, getting into the habit of, even if you have credit cards that you use for points, to just make sure that every purchase that you make, especially if it's beyond just the necessities of life, if it's something that is a nicer car purchase or a nice trip. Not to say that anybody, I mean, you should really, I mean, use NIL to live your best life. So no one's saying don't spend any of it, but just, I mean, it's such a great habit to get into for your entire life to not purchase anything when you don't have the money in your bank account. And again, I mean, that's sort of just a fundamental concept. And the problem that we have in 2024, we've had for the last 40, 50 years, is that the backstop in our parents' and grandparents' generation for purchases was if you can't afford it, then you can't buy it. Well,
Right.
now you have credit cards and we're just over serving personal debt. And so, that to me is such a crucial part of building wealth is, not is getting out of debt and then staying out of debt and never looking back. And then, really start to think about how you can prudently fill up the various investment buckets, the savings accounts, the 0 to 5 years. These are heady times for, 18, 19, 20 year olds to the extent that we're asking a lot of them. This part of their world, it's really for their short, intermediate, and long-term benefit. And so, my big thing is I want to make sure that we can take the worst elements of personal finance and investing, the things that can go wrong, often go wrong, not just for athletes, entertainers, but just regular investors. It's a treacherous, dangerous world out there. And to the extent that we can pull back the curtains and be like, this is how the industry operates. Here's what you need to know to take advantage of the opportunities, avoid the dangers, and to really, spend just enough time to put yourself in a position that you can succeed. Because I kind of go back to the whole idea of this should not occupy all of your time, that you are in college to get a meaningful education, to maximize your athletic career. NIL should be what comes after you, taking care of business in those areas. And then, again, there's, you don't want to be overwhelmed by this. So to the extent that and have the confidence that you're making all the right moves, you're looking at your statements, you're holding people accountable, you're holding yourself accountable for when it comes to personal spending habits, and then from there, I mean, put it down. Go back to doing what you do and what makes you a great athlete and hopefully a far above average student.
Great. Well, thank you, Mark, so much for sharing your insights with us today. Really appreciate it. And great insights and wisdom coming from your years of experience.
No, I appreciate it. This was a lot of fun. So thanks a lot.